Hello, my name is Marshall Salvato, and today we're going to be talking about evidence-based writing strategies and the importance of these strategies. Here's our agenda for today. First, we'll be going over the purpose. So why are we taking this session in writing? Give you some of our goals and objectives. Then we'll go over what's working, maybe what's not working in our classrooms as far as writing. We'll go over a writing framework and going over a structure for our students to be able to follow. We'll talk about engagement activities. How do we engage students in writing? Many times when you give students a writing assignment, they absolutely just tune out. Um, then we'll do a little teacher activity. You'll be playing spoons with some of your participants here in class today. You'll also get a chance to look at a picture book, right? And looking at picture books and seeing how can we use those to be able to create access for those students, right? Instead of starting with a difficult concept, giving them a more simple concept to be able to really get a good understanding of the framework. Then we'll talk about spiral review and how do we get more opportunities for our students to be able to practice their writing. Right? We don't want them to just be doing one or two essays a year, but we want them to be able to be practicing their evidence-based writing consistently and across curriculums. Next, rubrics. Making sure that we have established rubrics that are student friendly, right? And not having rubrics that are, more standardized SBAC type rubrics, right? Which can be very confusing and wordy for students. We want to have ones that are very student friendly. So we'll work on those together. We'll also give you some time to explore resources. I'm sorry, and then provide some time to look at what the follow up will look like. How are we going to implement this? How can I support you with this implementation? And then how can we share, right? How can we share some of the different things that we're doing within our? There hasn't been much with writing, so I wanted to like say, okay, maybe there's something we can do about writing, just as far as like consistency, because I think there's like things that I see is like different frameworks out there, like as far as like what students can expect, like how do I write an essay? What are the parts of an essay? Opportunities to practice. Are they getting enough time to practice? Like, how many essays do they write in a year?
Yeah.
Two, three. So, how do we get them to be able to practice it more? How do you engage them, right? Usually you say, okay, we're going to write this. You've given them the expectations, and they sit there and go,
Well, even when you say the word right, you lost them.
right,
Yeah,
right.
you've lost them.
They're kind of like, oh, I'm checking out. How about rubrics, conferencing? Do you guys do that? And then just trying to build their confidence. So I just wanted to kind of have like open discussion. What works for you guys? What have you seen? And it doesn't have to just stay with us. So like I know Sarah had mentioned some possibilities of using like technology to be able to give feedback, and I think that's important for that. And I'll just kind of chart it. So what's working for you guys as far as
Because
writing?
of the fear of picking up the pen or pencil to, create a elaborate thought process, because I know that, I anticipate that, I think conditioning works well. So what has worked well over the years is continuous, non-formal writing. So even the use of thinking maps, not beyond the daily basis, just every 30-minute increments, so to speak. And then how do we give meaning to the information we gather, present short summaries. So, from small to big, they get conditioned. It becomes subtle for them.
So it sounds like you kind of like when you read something, you write about it, right? To really kind of like solidify that meaning.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that probably gives you more opportunities to write, right?
Right.
Rather than just saying, okay, now we're going to focus on writing, and this is the big essay, and then we may not come back to it again for like 6 months, but they're doing it on a regular basis.
Right.
So make sure you're doing all their, what is their prompt. So they have to recognize what their prompt is. So are they going to write an informational? They have to understand what's that contains. Are they going to do narrative? So what's the expectations for the narrative? And if they're going to do an argumentative, the opinion, argumentative, narrative, and evidence-based. So I also have like a lot of sentence frames to kind of sentence frames
Sentence.
because they
Yes.
need the sentence
Yes.
frames. So for evidence-based text, you have like use certain frames. With the opinion, you say I think or I whatever.
Right. Or the author states,
The
right?
author
We always have
states.
that, like, instead of just plopping a quote.
On page so and so. So
They go, I know I need a quote, so I'm just gonna anywhere in
And it
there.
never matches what they're trying to write about. They just
Right.
figure if they have a quote, they're like, yeah.
The alignment of their
The alignment
evidence,
of the
right?
quote.
Right. Alignment
Of the
of
quote.
evidence. Well, I don't know if this is working. So is this working, or are we doing well aligning the quotes, or do we need to work on
Yeah,
that?
so
that's
I
something
would
to work
think it's
on.
not working.
I think it's
Yeah.
not.
Quotes
So-
are not working.
Aligning.
And the evidence, they don't always, like, even
Aligning
though I
evidence.
could tell them, where's your evidence, they'll still not, they'll quote the book, and I'm like, but you didn't tell me where you got it. You just kind of quoted, but you didn't say, according to the text. So that, every time I'm like,
Right,
I
that
just
introduction,
told you, we just did
yeah.
a whole lesson, and you guys are just giving me the book, but you're not giving me
So
where you got
to
it.
address that efficiency throughout the year, as we, for example, review content in our social studies. So you have your driving question predisposed, and then you, in the beginning of the year, you coach them on where to look, what page number, and what paragraph.
For the answer, I go, okay, pretend you want to say it happened in 1958. Well, according to document A, like they can only, if I go, even if your answer is right, I will mark you wrong if you don't cite it. So, but now that's all they do all year. So that's all they know how to write. I go, it's just like rumors. I'm like, where'd you hear that rumor from?
Right.
I'm like, can you
say the
please?
same thing. I say
Yeah.
the same thing. I'm like, who
I'm
said
like,
it?
prove
How do
it.
you know?
What's the
Yeah.
source?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so now they talk to me like, well, according to Miss Sanchez, she said. I'm like, so
there you
it
go.
just
Okay.
starts becoming their language.
Right.
Because I'm like, right now, I don't believe you. I'm like, all your answers, I don't believe you. I'm like, if you can tell me where you got it from, then I'm going to believe you. Then you'll get credit for
And I think that the ACE, definitely the ACE strategy
it.
would helps because not when they cite the evidence, and then you say, well, the part of the ACE is answer the question, cite
Explaining
evidence, and explain. What they explain is how are you connecting
How is it connected?
to your site. Yes, kids cite all the time. I'm like, but that doesn't match what you're saying here. So that when I'm using the ACE, what does it, explain? What does that mean to you? That explain part has really helped my writing. And something that I know I need to work on a little more is transitional words.
Yes.
They tend to use the wrong ones.
Practice
give
more
them-
on that,
and I give them a list of transitional words, and we talk about, okay, when is this appropriate? But if I'm not constantly using it in the different ways, they're using it wrong. I give them a list of the same thing of citing evidence. How do you start? Like these are, and I have them there on the wall. I'm like, these are magic words. Where's your magic word? I never saw, according to the paragraph this. I never saw, according to the text or. For example, on page whatever, and I have so many, or are your magic words? I tell them, I don't see any. And we started using rainbow, like a rainbow, we started using colors. I don't see any, let's say, greens that are citing evidence in your essay. So where is it? Oh yeah, that's right, and I have to prove it by highlighting those all in green.
So the color relates to a certain
Color
part,
code.
certain part of
Color
your framework.
Yeah, so they see a lot of reflection going on
Yeah.
from that.
Well, what I see is they're using mentor text, right? They're basically seeing something from another student that's like, oh wow, mine doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gets to like rubrics too, right? That's kind of
Yeah.
what rubrics is being aware of your own writing
Mhm.
and knowing, okay, hey, did I have the evidence here? Did I back it up with justification or explaining it? So it's kind of giving them a chance to be self-aware or aware of their own writing. All right. Anything else? So let's see. Rubrics. You guys use rubrics?
I use the SBAC. That's the
Yeah,
ones that we
that's
use.
what
We
it
all
is.
use the SBACs because that's what they tell us to use.
So my challenge is it something that students can use?
Yeah, you just give it to them, or you make a friendlier version.
I
'Cause
would-
the
that's what
the
I- that's
SBAC
always-
is
it's
kinda
kinda
like,
confusing.
oh, I'm like,
it's
Kids are
vague.
gonna- it's
Word,
vague.
Yeah.
wording
Don't make
word,
it too
yeah.
wordy.
Yeah.
Make
Or
it
you
kid
take what's on the aspect
Okay.
and
Make
you
it
kid
kid-friendly.
friendly it.
So what do you think? Working? Rubrics? You like using rubrics?
Rubrics,
yeah.
Okay, so student friendly rubrics.
They have to have it right as they're making their essay so they can look to make sure that
Like a
they have it.
checklist.
So I did, yeah, checklist, that's what I was.
And it kind of goes back to their confidence, right? I can gain confidence if I have a checklist that I know, oh, I know what evidence is, and I know I put evidence in there.
And then going with the confidence, like a lot of the kids don't like that cold right away.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them need that dialogue. So like with the Avid strategies, like doing that philosophical chairs for argumentative, or even like Socratic seminar, just talking about the topic, or even if it's like something that they just read, like they have to talk about it because a lot of them need validation on what their thought process was. So if they hear somebody, that's what they do. They have to engage in it before I think they start writing.
I think you can take that framework, right, that we use for evidence-based writing and use it part of those discussions, right?
For sure.
Whether it's about ice cream
Yeah,
or
or
whether
anything,
it's
yeah.
about, it's just having that conversation about it and knowing that I have to make a claim, I have to have evidence,
Mhm.
and then I have to justify it. So if they get to practice that more, not necessarily writing, but at least they're kind of learning that framework over and over. So,
And the reason it's kind of challenging because then they have to kind of justify, and that's where they, because everything else is
that's
from the
always the most
book.
difficult.
Every time I go, oh, yeah, that's gonna be hard. Because the reason is where they get stuck. They put there, they do that. I see your topic sense. I see that. Now justify, and it's very simple. But even I was like,
Yeah.
if I was a fifth grader, yeah,
Oh yeah.
kind of lost.
So yeah, the justification might be something
Yeah.
to have them practice on.
More practicing, and that's hard.